Somewhere in the dark water off the coast of Cuba tonight, a low gray shape is moving against the swell, driven by nothing but wind. Nobody is aboard it. A tall, stiff wing leans into the breeze, and above it, a single lens turns slowly through the black, sweeping the horizon, and never once closing. It arrived weeks ago. It will still be here weeks from now. And every vessel that crosses this water, lit or dark, loud or silent, passes in front of that lens, without ever knowing it is there. Hold that picture. We are coming back to it. Because 90 miles off the coast of Florida sits Cuba, and lately the American press has carried a claim about that island, that it is quietly stocked up on hundreds of one-way attack drones. Sit with what that would mean. Against $1 billion warship comes something a few $1,000s can build, answering to no one, that cannot be reasoned with, warned off, or bought, and does not care that it will not survive the trip. Ending is the entire plan. And it never comes alone. A weapon like that turns a calm horizon into a question you can never fully close. Havana calls the whole report an invention, an accusation dressed up as intelligence. We are not going to tell you who is right because we honestly cannot. And by the end of this, that may not even be the question that matters. Because a Navy does not get to wait and find out. It has to be ready for everything at once. The threat that is real and the threat that is only a rumor. The one it can name and the one it has never seen. Whether any of it ever actually comes or not. That is the real problem, and it is brutally hard. How do you guard a stretch of dangerous water against a threat that may not even exist, that could come from any bearing on any night, for months on end, without ever once looking away? The answer the United States Navy reached for is not a warship. It is that gray shape from the opening, the one still out there in the dark, watching. It is called the Saildrone Voyager, and it is the strangest machine the Navy has ever trusted with a dangerous sea. A robot that carries no weapon at all. Tonight, here at Navy Decoded, we take it apart, and with it, the whole silent net the Navy's 4th Fleet has strung across the Caribbean. Stay to the end, and the next time someone tells you a coastline is being watched, you will know exactly what that takes. Start with why this is hard at all, because the difficulty is not really about the threat. It is about the size of the map. The Caribbean is enormous, well over 1 million square miles of open water, threaded with shipping lanes and choke points, right on the doorstep of the United States. Across all of it moves traffic that has every reason to stay quiet. Some smuggling, some sanctioned cargo running silent. And some of it may not be on the surface at all, a shape moving slow and deep beneath the swell. The kind of thing that has spent a century learning how to not be there. From a watchstander's chair, they all begin the same way, as a contact that does not want to be a contact. Now separate this from the Hollywood version of the story. The hard part was never the shooting. Give the Navy a target, a real bearing, a real range, a confirmed identity, and ending the threat is almost the easy step. The hard part is everything before that, finding the one contact that matters inside all that water before it reaches the shore. And this is where the geography stops being a backdrop and becomes the actual enemy. Any fleet has a finite number of hulls, and each one can only watch the patch of ocean it is sitting in. Spread even a strong force across 1 million square miles, and at any moment the overwhelming majority of that sea has no one looking at it at all. Not because anyone failed, but because the map is simply bigger than the force. Every unwatched square mile is an open door. Draw the sensor coverage of an entire fleet on a chart of the Caribbean, and the shaded circles barely stain the blue, a scatter of small patches inside an ocean of white. That white is where every threat, real or rumored, is designed to live. It is not a weapon, it fires nothing and threatens no one on its own. It is simply the water no one is looking at, and it is the largest thing on the map by far. You cannot outshoot a blank space. You can only shrink it, cover more of that white for far longer than a fleet of crewed ships ever could. Which is a problem no warship can solve, but a different kind of machine might. That machine is the Voyager, and everything else in this story is built on top of it. It is a strange looking thing. A narrow hull about 33 feet long, riding low in the water, with a rigid wing standing roughly 21 feet above the deck where a sail would be. That wing is not decoration. It is the engine. The Voyager moves on wind alone, tacking across the sea at a walking pace of about 5 knots, while solar panels along the deck feed the only thing aboard that actually needs power, the sensors. There is no engine to fuel and nothing aboard to run dry. And because it spends almost nothing to keep moving, it can stay out on the water for close to 100 days at a time before anyone has to think about it again. 5 knots sounds slow, and it is, but slow is the point. The Voyager was never built to chase anything. It is built to see and to stay, to sit in a piece of ocean and simply refuse to leave. Speed would burn the energy that decides how long it can hold its post. In this fight, the marathon is what wins. So what does it see with? A high-powered radar sweeping thousands of square miles a day. Infrared cameras on a steerable mount that see straight through fog and darkness when a human lookout would see nothing at all. A receiver tuned to the automatic identification signals that honest ships broadcast to announce themselves. And below all that, a quieter set of instruments measuring the water itself. Temperature, salinity, the acoustic structure of the sea. Hold on to that last one. It looks like a footnote right now. It is going to matter enormously in a few minutes. But a single sensor is only as good as what it does with what it sees, and this is where the real engineering hides. A fleet of these machines generates an ocean of data, terabytes a day, far more than any roomful of sailors could ever watch in real time. Throw all of it up a satellite link and you have not solved the problem. You have just moved the traffic jam. So Saildrone put the intelligence on the boat. The cameras and radar run their own onboard AI, sorting contacts right there at the edge. A fishing trawler here, a fast boat behaving strangely there, and throwing away almost everything. Only the handful worth a second look gets sent home, with a precise position attached. The machine does not drown its own operators. It hands them a short list. And the list works. During an operation called Windward Stack, 10 of these Voyagers were turned loose on the Caribbean for a year and a half, and the numbers that came back were hard to argue with. More than 130,000 nautical miles sailed, 2,700 cumulative days on mission, 116,000 separate contacts detected, 43 a day for every single boat. And of those, 98,000 were running without broadcasting any identification signal at all. 98,000 things actively trying not to be seen anyway. That number is the whole argument in one line, because being invisible was the entire plan. And it is not only smugglers that number caught. In the summer of 2024, that same net of wind-powered robots quietly shadowed 3 Russian warships as they moved through the waters near Cuba, tracking major surface combatants of a rival power with machines that cost a rounding error by comparison. This is not a science project. It is a working picket line, and it is already on the water. But for all of that, the Voyager has one hard limit, and it is a limit written by physics, not by budget. Its radar sits about 20 feet off the surface, and from 20 feet up, the horizon is close. A sensor can only see as far as the curve of the Earth allows, and low down, that curve arrives fast. The Voyager owns the water around it. To own the water beyond it, the Navy has to lift the eye off the sea. This is where a simple piece of geometry takes over, and it is worth doing the math out loud, because it explains the whole shape of the air campaign. The distance to the horizon grows with the square root of your height. A radar on a 20-foot mast reaches barely a dozen nautical miles before the planet itself curves out of reach. Raise that same radar up to 50,000 feet, and the horizon does not creep out a little. It leaps out past 270 nautical miles in every direction at once. You did not build a better sensor. You just stopped letting the curve of the Earth hide things from it. So the Navy took the same instinct behind the Voyager, a patient eye that never blinks, and flew it into the stratosphere. The machine that does this is the MQ-4C Triton, a long-winged, high-altitude drone that cruises above 50,000 feet for a full day at a stretch, sensors on task roughly 80% of the time it is aloft. From up there, it looks down, its radar and cameras cutting through cloud to sweep enormous stretches of sea in a single pass, reaching the low, distant contacts the Voyager's horizon could never touch. Think of a watchman on a beach. He sees to the edge of the water and no farther. Put that same watchman on a mountain and the edge runs to the sky. Except here, the mountain flies, and it never has to land. And the Navy learned how dangerous this game is the hard way. In June of 2019, over the Strait of Hormuz, Iran fired a surface-to-air missile and brought down one of these high-altitude drones, a BAMS-D Global Hawk, the direct predecessor of the Triton. A machine flying that high feels untouchable, right up until it is reminded that a capable adversary can reach it. So the fleet does not fly the Triton over hostile ground and dare anyone to shoot. It flies it at the edge of international airspace and lets the sensor do the crossing, reaching its radar over a coastline without ever putting the airframe above it. Respect the reach of the other side and you design around it. But altitude buys you one thing only. It tells you a contact is there. It does not tell you what it is. And a screen full of anonymous dots is not readiness. It is anxiety, 100 unknowns you know nothing about. So the last piece of this net is not another watcher sitting back and looking. It is the machine that flies straight up to the dot and asks it its name. The Voyager and the Triton are both detectors. They are extraordinary at answering where and almost silent on who. Closing that gap is a different kind of work, and it takes a different kind of aircraft. When one of those unknown contacts looks wrong enough to matter, a P-8A Poseidon goes out to meet it. This is the Navy's long-range maritime patrol aircraft, and in this net it plays the interrogator. The drone and the Triton point, and the Poseidon flies to the coordinates for the answer. Its radar paints a high-resolution image of the target from miles out. Not just that a vessel is there, but the length of the hull, the shape of the deck, the fittings that separate a working trawler from something wearing a trawler's disguise. The anonymous dot stops being anonymous. It gets a name, a class, an intent, and it can chase a contact the rest of the net cannot even see. The silent one, the shape moving deep beneath the swell. The Poseidon can put sensors into the water and listen for what runs below it. Reaching into the one layer of the ocean, the Voyager's cameras and the Triton's radar will never touch. That is a hunt with a physics all its own, and it is a story for another day. What matters here is the role. In a net built to watch the surface, the Poseidon is the single member that can also look under it. And here is where that quiet footnote from earlier comes back with interest. Remember the Voyager measuring the water, temperature, salinity, the acoustic structure of the sea? That was never oceanography for its own sake. Sound bends and channels through the ocean according to exactly those properties, and a listening sensor works only as well as the crew understands the water it drops into. The wind-powered robot, drifting along doing what looked like idle science, has been quietly charting the very water the Poseidon has to hunt through. The Voyager was never just watching. It was drawing the map that makes the hunter's ears accurate, which leaves the biggest problem of all. By now, the Navy has a robot on the surface, a drone in the stratosphere, and a patrol plane over the contact, each seeing a different slice of the same ocean through a different sensor. On their own, that is 3 separate rumors. The machine that turns them into one certainty is the E-2D Hawkeye, whose job is to be the mind that holds the whole picture. Through a networked data link, it fuses what each of the others sees into a single shared view the whole force reads at once. So the blind spot of one sensor is exactly where another is looking clearly. A dozen witnesses who cannot talk to each other give you a dozen rumors. Wire them into one room, finishing each other's sentences, and it stops being a rumor. It becomes a case. And this is not a one-time experiment being run at small scale. The picket that started with 10 Voyagers has already grown toward 20, an expanding net of patient machines feeding a picture that no longer has a seam in it for anything to slip through. So step back from the machines. The surface robot, the high drone, the patrol plane, the aircraft that ties them together, and stop counting them, because the sum is the only part that matters. Layered on top of one another, they stop being 4 sensors and become a single condition, a stretch of dangerous water that is simply never unwatched, from the seabed to the sky, with no gap in time and no anonymous dot left on the board. Now ask what that condition actually does to a threat. Because this is the real lesson, and it is bigger than any one machine. Every cheap, dangerous thing on that sea shares one secret, and it is not the explosive. It is the surprise. These weapons are frightening for one reason only. They are meant to appear where no one was looking, in the moment no one was watching. That is the entire economy of the thing. A threat that costs almost nothing gets to menace a billion-dollar asset purely because it arrives unannounced. Take that away, and what remains is a slow, fragile object moving toward a defender who has tracked it since it left the shore. The stopping was never the hard part. A threat you see coming from far enough out is a problem the fleet already knows how to solve. The same threat arriving out of nowhere, in the last mile, is one no weapon can reach in time. The net does not replace the shooters. It gives them the one thing that makes their shot possible: warning. And in doing so, it deletes the single advantage that made the cheap weapon worth building at all. And this reframes the strangest machine in the whole story. Go back to the Voyager, the little robot with no gun, drifting at a walking pace, looking for all the world like the most passive thing in the fleet. It is the opposite. That machine cannot be provoked into a mistake. cannot be worn down, cannot be frightened off station, cannot be bribed to look away. It just watches and forces every threat on that sea to reveal itself before it can spring. The most powerful thing in this net is the one member that never fires a shot. So come back to the question we handed you at the very start. Are the drones real? We are still not going to answer that, and now we can tell you why we do not have to. Readiness does not wait for certainty. The Navy did not build this net because those drones are real. It built it so that the answer would not change what happens next. Real or rumored, seen or unseen, launched or never launched at all, the threat runs into the exact same wall, a sea that is already being watched every hour from the seabed to the sky. That is the whole meaning of being ready. You stop needing to know what is coming. We started with a hard question. How do you guard a sea against a threat you have never seen? You have now watched the answer get built, one piece at a time. And notice what the answer was not. It was not a bigger gun or a faster missile or a wall of destroyers. It was something quieter and far stranger than any weapon in the inventory. A way to make a stretch of dangerous water impossible to cross without being seen. The Navy did not win this by shooting harder. It won it by making sure no corner of that sea ever went dark. So go back to that dark water off Cuba and to the thing moving through it on nothing but wind, the one we asked you to hold in mind at the start. It carries no weapon and it never needed one. Chasing you, stopping you, firing on you, all of that belongs to other machines. Its entire job is to refuse to look away. And that, it turns out, is the whole game. So maybe those drones out there are real. Maybe they never were. The Navy built its answer to hold either way, because readiness was never about knowing what is coming. It was about making sure that whatever comes, it arrives somewhere the lights never went out. A machine that never sleeps, an eye that never lands, a sea that no longer looks away. Which leaves exactly one question, and we will hand this one to you as well. Out on a sea that has stopped keeping secrets, how much is a surprise even worth anymore?